Hey, what's up, everyone? DREAGEN here to tell you that you should be reading Black Lagoon. Black Lagoon is a Japanese manga written and illustrated by Rei Hito and basically follows a mercenary group who kind of specializes in transporting all manner of kind of illegal contraband. Essentially, it's kind of like Firefly, but not in space, if that makes any sense, if you're familiar with that property. And basically, you follow these group of mercenaries, especially when they take on a new team member, if you will, named by Brock, who's a Japanese businessman or former Japanese businessman. Basically, gets sold out by his company, and for a while they're basically using him as ransom until finally he comes to realize that, you know what, why go back? Why go back to my old life, to a life that was kind of boring and dull and mundane, to people who just willingly screwed me over anyway. So basically, kind of the moral of the story is, if the world is filled with assholes and everyone is out to get you, you might as well hang with the people where you can make a buck off of it. And that's basically how this story progresses. We kind of follow Rock, into this life of kind of crime and kind of the seedy underbelly of the world, if you will. And you basically fall in line with this mercenary group and kind of go on their madcap exploits, if you will. Now, in terms of getting into the story, normally with these videos, I like to do it kind of like break it down just a little bit, kind of give you some analogies. But to be honest with you, this story is pretty straightforward. What I just told you is pretty much it. So why do I care? Why should you care? Well, the interesting thing about this story is that in a lot of ways, it's kind of a metaphor for life, where nothing is black and white. It's rather shades of gray. And that's what this story is about, shades of gray. This criminal world kind of becomes your real world to you. When you're dealing with people who are all kind of nefarious to some degree, it very much becomes a story of lesser of evils. The people who are not as bad as some of the other people become the good guys, become your heroes, become your protagonists. People who in other kinds of stories would be the bad guys, the villains, are now your heroes, for better or for worse. And a lot of the people you follow aren't all just evil. The Laguna Company, which Rock kind of signs up with, they're not bad people, but they are mercenaries. They're out to make a buck, to be sure, and sometimes they do illegal things to get it done. And yes, there's a lot of gunplay, there's a lot of killing, there's a lot of murder, but because it's a world where kind of everyone, again, is, like I said, a shade of gray, the people who are being killed off and murdered tend to be people who are much worse. So you don't have to worry about seeing them murdering innocent people. But that's, like I said, what it's about, shades of gray. You're meant to realize that the world is not just good, not just evil. You see people who do bad things for reasons they feel are virtuous. It's not always just out for the money. There are some people in this series that you see will do something that we would deem as nefarious, but they, in their mind, they have a good reason for it. And it's a world where everything is built on this kind of middle of the road mentality, where it's not good, it's not evil, and to survive in this world you kind of have to adopt that mentality yourself. You can't go into it being completely virtuostic. You're going to get killed. You have to understand that sometimes you have to get your hands dirty. Sometimes to achieve a greater good, if you will, you kind of have to do something kind of nefarious or something kind of down and dirty in the moment. So because of that, this series really exemplifies kind of the human condition, where we like to think of ourselves as good. Usually, we like to think of ourselves as kind of, untainted by that which we know is evil. But the reality is, we've got bad in us too. No matter how good you are, the best person in the world has shades of darkness into them, and that's what creates the gray. That's what creates, that shade of gray, where in truth, that's kind of where we all end up in the end, in the middle. Some of the worst people in the world have good in them, and some of the best people in the world have bad in them. But what happens when you live in that world in between? What happens when you follow people who live in between? And that's basically the crux of the story. Now, it sounds very dramatic, I know, when I state it like that, but the reality is, this series is actually really fun and really funny too. There's a lot of comedy, there's a lot of humor in it. These people they drink, they smoke, they swear. They're a lot of fun to read, and this series has actually been adapted into an anime, which we will talk about on the You Should Be Watching series. But for now, the manga really stands out. The story and the visuals don't really pull any punches. It gets in your face. It's gritty. It's raw. It's a lot of fun. The art style is, I think, top notch. It's kind of, for me, what I like to look at as like kind of the mid to late 90s style of like manga and or anime, which again, personally for me, kind of my favorite period and art style for like manga and animation. So the fact that it has that going for it, I really enjoy. But again, there's a lot of rich detail. The story is really fleshed out. This world of just criminals and criminal syndicates, and organizations is so fleshed out that it almost has like a otherworldly feel at times, because you are kind of removed so much from the everyday, the norm, that when you do come across kind of normal people, if you will, it almost feels alien, like it feels strange. It almost feels like you're going to like another planet, because you've become so accustomed to being around people of a certain nature, of a certain type, who kind of view life in this very kind of middle of the road way, that when you kind of meet the black and the white, it seems alien, which is interesting because that's how we usually live our lives, is good or bad. So when you hang with these characters for so long, when you're reintroduced to the black and the white, it now feels to you, the reader, what it feels like to the characters: artificial, false, because they know that that's not how life is. That's what we try to make it life, but that's not actually what it is. So in terms of just the basic aesthetic, so if you're a fan of like just lots of action, lots of gratuitous violence, a lot of gratuitous, profanity, and just, a lot of kind of almost 80s style action, you'll love Black Lagoon. But again, it does have a bit of a deeper metaphor to it. Again, it's nothing that it throws in your face to the point of irritation, but it's something that you'll kind of notice when you walk away from. When it's all said and done, once you've kind of read it or watched it, you'll kind of walk away with that sense of like, huh. And you'll notice it when you kind of look around yourself in life, in the real world, and you'll kind of realize, how many of us would be like that if we found ourselves in that situation. Could we, adopt that, way of thinking, or rather, should I say, could we regress back to that way of thinking, a bit more, selfish, survival of the fittest kind of mentality, if we found ourselves in that scenario? Or we would be eaten alive, basically. Because if you don't adopt that mentality, that's exactly what happens to you in this story, in this world, if you will. So with that said, I recommend Black Lagoon. It's a great manga. Started in 2001, and I believe it's still ongoing now. And again, we will talk about the anime on the You Should Be Watching show, so be on the lookout for that. But in the meantime, have you read Black Lagoon? If so, what did you think? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you like kind of more of these edgy, kind of in-your-face kind of stories, especially in manga or just in comic books in general, really? If you haven't, are you curious to check it out now? If so, I'll leave some links in the description section below where you can pick it up and check it out for yourself. And then be sure and come back and leave some comments here. Let me know what you think. So as always, guys, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace!